A lot of you trout fishermen know, especially here on the East Coast, that spring is sulfur season. Right after the March browns and before the terrestrials, you'll get a month or two of these little yellow mayflies. So I've got another sulfur pattern for you today, and this one's a little different from a typical mayfly style in that it uses snowshoe hare's foot for a wing. Well, I call it a wing, but it's just as much an indicator. It does keep the fly very buoyant, but it also has a bonus of making it easy for us old guys to see. And I tie it this way so I have an option of hanging a nymph under it, and this thing will hold a pretty heavy nymph. Now, I've been using this pattern for a couple years, and it's worked well enough for me. I did get a couple of fish with it this morning, pretty small fish, up on the Gunpowder, so stick around after the tie if you want to see a couple minutes of a really beautiful trout river. So there it is in the vise, just a simple little snowshoe hare sulfur. Not much to it, but oftentimes you don't need much to it. This is a size 14 standard length barbless dry fly hook. And I'm going to put down some yellow thread. This is a 70 denier. We'll catch it in up here somewhere near the front third. Now take your snowshoe hare's foot. We'll get some of the tuft from the bottom side, that crinkly stuff there. Now just take as big a tuft as you can comfortably tie on here. Probably do need to pull some of that under fur out because that under fur is very dense. So let's go with about that right there. Now let's snip off all this in the back, as much of it as we can right there. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. And take her thread up. I will prop this up and even put a couple of wraps around it, almost like you were doing a parachute post, but we're not. We're not going to wrap the hackle as parachute, but we just kind of want that wing slash indicator sticking up mostly at a 90-degree angle. Now go ahead and take your thread to the back. We'll catch in a tail. And I tie most of my mayflies with a pretty long tail. This isn't really going to help it float, but it will just give it that mayfly tail look. So, okay. That is just kind of going all over the place. We'll go a few extra wraps back, see if we can get them laying together a little bit better. And that's going to be fine. Okay, a few wraps right here just to lock this in. Now go ahead and put some wax on your thread. And I'm going to use acrylic. This is an acrylic yarn I put in my coffee grinder. And this one is kind of a bright yellow. Some of the sulfurs up on the Savage are more of a cream, a little bit lighter yellow, but the ones on the Gunpowder look like bananas. They're bright, bright yellow. So whatever the sulfurs are in your area, some yellow, some cream, whatever you think is going to look right. It probably doesn't make that big of a difference. But go ahead and wrap this up to right behind that snowshoe hare's wing. And I do have one weird looking tail fiber coming off right there. We'll just snip that. Okay. I think that's going to be fine. Now just take some white dry fly hackle. And like most of your mayflies, just go maybe 1.5 times the hook gap right here. Okay, maybe right there. And we'll catch it in right behind the wing. Probably going to put 1 or 2 wraps behind the wing and then 3 or 4 in front. Totally up to you how heavily hackled you want it, how buoyant you want this fly. I kind of tie these very buoyant because I often fish them with a dropper. Now just go ahead and wrap your hackle. And if you let it slip, as I just did, try again. Okay, I think that's going to be enough. Couple wraps to secure this, and then we'll bunch everything back before we snip off this excess. I just try to push it all back so I don't leave any pointing forward. You don't need to go too far back, just far enough back where you can get a wet finish in here without trapping any of these fibers going forward. And now we got this excess right here. And take a look, see if you got any cleanup. In this case, I think we're fine. It's a little shaggy, but that's perfectly all right. So there you go, just plain sulfur mayfly with snowshoe hare for the wing. Now stick around a couple minutes if you want to see me fishing this thing on the Gunpowder River this morning. Good morning from the Gunpowder River here in Maryland. It's about 7 a.m. My first stop of the day is just upstream from the bridge at York Road. There's a nice little stretch for a couple of miles here. It's pretty early, it's a little chilly out. Haven't seen any bugs in the air, but I did see some sulfurs in the spider webs along the trail. They were about a size 16, maybe, yeah, probably a 16 or so. So I'm gonna start with dry flies. I've got it's a snowshoe hare sulphur. It's a pretty buoyant fly. I came up with it last year so that I could fish it with a dropper. Don't have a dropper on right now. I might go to one later, but first stop, I'm just gonna fish straight up one dry fly in this little stretch, see if we can't get anything to come up for it. All right, beautiful day out. Let's see if we can't get anything to come up for this snowshoe hare sulphur. This water out there just across from me is a lot deeper than it looks. You probably can't tell on the camera, but it's at least waist deep. You know, I'm in knee-deep water right now, but I can't get too far out there. I mean, I don't need to. The river's only 30 feet wide. There's one. Not too big. There's a splashy rise. Let's see, come on up, buddy. Where are you? Right there. All right, I don't need the net for this guy. You see that? A little 7-incher maybe. Pretty fish. Got some nice yellow on him. There you go, little buddy. Get on back in there. All right, thanks for sticking around. You might have noticed I said in the video that the water was a lot deeper than it looked. Well, I found that out the hard way. I've been fishing the Gunpowder for about 10 years and I've never fallen in. Well, I didn't really fall in today either, but I was trying to wade across where I thought it was about waist deep, went one step too far and filled my waders with water. I'm talking total wet. Shirt, jacket, pants, underwear, socks, all wet. I had about 2 inches of water all the way down into my boots. So what I thought was gonna be a good half day of fishing, I ended up going home about 9 a.m. So I'm hoping to get back up there this week. Maybe I'll have a little more luck, at least in the not falling in part, but I'll probably give this fly another shot up there.